back. This is the second episode I've done this afternoon, and I'm so excited because, well, first off, I really want to thank Lana Goins for being an incredible guest. You're always an incredible person to talk to. I was so happy to be able to talk to you earlier today for about half an hour. For those who don't know, this is MarkTalk. It's where I talk to on Wednesdays. I talk to friends or people I'm intrigued by about life and interesting things. That is what it's all about. Also, I have shows on here 3 or 4 days a week. If you like what you see, press that like button. If you want to subscribe, press the subscribe button. But without further ado, a guest that I've been a fan of since I heard of her a little over 5 months ago. Absolute icon in my mind, an activist, a poet, and just an incredible human being, the one, the only, Muna Abdulahi.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Mark. Thank you so much for that introduction. And I can't believe I'm on MarkTalk.
I can't believe you're on MarkTalk either. I was watching your poetry earlier today just to get myself vibed up. And this is a real thing about me. I'm not the biggest poetry person, but I freaking love the words you have to say. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Poetry is a big part of who I am. And it's not just something I do just speak with my voice, but it also gives me my voice. And so poetry is a big part of my life, and I'm just so happy it found me when it did.
Yeah. When did you find it then?
So it's hard to, let me start all the way back.
No, it's really, yeah.
All the way back, I'm saying even before I was born. So
okay.
I'm Somali, which means, my family is from Somalia, and that's where my ancestral roots are from. With that being said, Somalia is the Horn of Africa. It's right on the tip on East Africa. And one big thing about Somalia is it's known as the nation of poets. And so my grandmother was a poet. My great-grandmother was a poet. And my grandfather was also a poet. So there's a lot of people in my family line who were poets. But when the Civil War happened in Somalia, my mom and my dad, who were both on different journeys throughout the Civil War, ended up coming to the United States through the Kenya refugee camps. And when they came to the United States in Atlanta, Georgia, that's where I was born with me and my sisters. And for a long time, I had a disconnect between, my Somali background because, I was raised in America. Big part of my identity is being American. And for the longest time, I just couldn't connect to that side of me. Fast forward to about middle school, I became mute, meaning I didn't speak at all. And that is
a
lot of, traumatic things that occurred in my childhood being, a fire being started. And so because of that, I became mute. And it wasn't until about high school where I found speech, which is like a competitive club where a lot of people,
speech and debate. Yeah,
speech and debate. And one of the categories, has drama, has prose, whatever. One of the categories was poetry. And that's where my English teacher back in high school tried, because around high school is when I really wanted to start speaking again. And I also had a big stutter. And in that, I was very cautious and insecure about speaking. And so my English teacher at the time, Mr. Pops, he recommended me to speech. And when I found the category of poetry, it really touched me. Now in speech, you don't recite your own work, you recite other people's works. And so a lot of poets that have truly changed my life really was when I started to find and recite their work. And through that, all my 4 years in speech and debate, I didn't win a single thing. I really wasn't that good. And however, I found so much joy and love in reciting poetry and finding meaning in poetry and just finding these really cool poets who had these voices and used it with purpose and with meaning and with just so much heart. And so it wasn't until, high school, I was writing my own stuff, but I was always so insecure about sharing it. I was never, I could share anybody's poems by heart, but I would never recite my own stuff. And so fast forward to college, so I went to the University of Minnesota, and Minneapolis is like a hub has a big spoken word scene, has a big slam scene, has a big poetry scene. And so through that, I found Button Poetry, which is a very big, I think it's the biggest spoken word organization in, I think, the world. And so I found that, and I remember I was like in ninth No, I remember I was like a freshman in college, and
Yeah.
I went to like an open mic they had, and I was just sitting back, and I was just like, oh, this is so cool. This is where my heart is, but I just can't share my own work. And it wasn't until a couple times coming to the spoken word scene and just the open mics where I had the courage to do my own work. And since then, I've been doing my own work, and I've been writing endlessly. And so if you just see how I talk right now, the way I talk is like has a rhythm to it. And that is because I learned how to speak through poetry. And so poetry is just a big part of my life. And at the core, it's what gave me my voice, and literally and figuratively, it's what really, it's just a big part of who I am. And I'm just always so, I'm always so honored when I get to just be on a stage and get to speak my truth and use
Yeah.
the voice that, the very thing poetry gave me. And so, yeah.
I mean, it was so beautiful because, like, as I mentioned earlier, and as I told you before, like, I'm not the biggest like natural fan of poetry, but like, I remember I've seen like you post on Twitter a couple of your things. I remember most recently the one that like hit me so hard is pronounce this correctly. I know you shared it like 2 weeks ago on your Twitter, and it's just like I just started crying uncontrollably. Like, it's just this beautiful, well-structured piece of art that like also as because I'm a theater person, I write my own plays and stuff like that, like seeing how it goes from like past Muna to present Muna, and just like the way the words are worded from both, and it's just so moving to me, and it's just so incredible.
Thank you so much, Mark. Like, so there's a big part of my identity is being a spoken word poet. And the reason behind that is because I learned through speech how to perform before I learned how to use my own words. And so the way I say my words is so intentional. And I think it gives another meaning in a way just reading a poem could never do. And so that is a big part of me. But also that specific poem is a poem that means a lot to me, because that is actually the first poem I recited in front of a crowd that is my own. And that poem, I remember distinctively where I wrote my poems. And this is a funny story because I am a person that I can't write poems just by sitting down at a table and just like, okay, I'm going to write poems now. For me, it becomes in stages, and it becomes in just the randomest moments and times in my life. And that poem actually ended up writing in a public bathroom. I think it was in maybe Waffle House, perhaps. I don't quite remember which actual restaurant, but I know it was in a restaurant in a public bathroom. And it was after a moment where, I was at a restaurant, and what happened was I think the waitress just absolutely pronounced every single one of our names wrong, and had a lot of these presumptions about us. And of course, we were hit with, where are you really from? Where are you from? And we'd hit them with, oh, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and it just all these biases and things were put on me. And I remember I just needed to write, and at that moment it wasn't that moment that made me write that poem. It was me realizing that these are things I'm so comfortable with, and trying to dissect why it is I'm so comfortable with these moments and with these things. And for writing, for me, has always been a meaning of processing, a meaning of trying to understand this world, not only how the world sees me, but also how I see the world, and trying to, I guess, write my way through understanding and through meaning. And so, yeah.
I mean, it's so interesting how you and me are both from the South, and obviously we have very different backgrounds. I mean, you're from Atlanta as a Somali, and I'm nerdy Jewish middle class kid from Miami, which is like pretty much the exact opposite, but like still like I fully understand like how things, because I've got a lot of friends from Atlanta, and it's just, and like, I mean, I've seen, unfortunately, like, the racism of the South and stuff like that, and it's really cool to see people like you that are like, they're just so freaking bold with their words, and they're not afraid to speak and have their voice, and have their voice be heard and be inspiring. Like, I'll never ever forget the first moment I noticed you in that sequester, the first time I saw you in sequester, Heroes versus Villains, where I immediately was gravitated towards you. Like, she seems cool, she's chill, I like her energy, and I hope she does well. And then like, you won. Um,
I appreciate that, Mark, so much.
that was the first Patreon game I ever watched. Just a question. That was not like RGP, BB Can, or whatever. But like, it was just so cool being like, you don't see people like you on TV, which makes me so sad because you're so freaking cool and you have so much to say, and like everything about you is just makes me happy.
I appreciate that so much, Mark, because for the majority of my life, I've always been the person that stands out. Like I'm always the person that is. I've gone to predominantly white institutions and high schools and middle schools, and like regardless of where I was, I always was the one person that stood out.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, I guess I've always questioned why it is people like me are not in these spaces. Why are people like me not typically always pushed out or have to work so hard to get into these spaces? And for me, for the longest time, I was like, what is the point? Because I remember when I was a kid, the question you get asked, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
And for me, it was so hard because I was like, I don't see anybody like me in any of the positions that I want to be in. And it wasn't, I forgot. I believe it was my kindergarten teacher, and it's crazy because I don't remember much about my childhood, but I remember specific moments that are very key to me. And, when I went up to her about that, and the one thing she said is, be what you want to see in this world. And for me, it was like, I love all these really cool things. I love reality TV. I love A, B, and C. I love poetry. I love all these things.
Yeah.
And so let me be the first. I'm not scared to be the first. I'm not only going to show up in these spaces, I'm going to show up so bold, so happy, so proud. I'm going to bring my energy into these spaces, and it's going to be beautiful. And regardless of the negativity, regardless of whatever people have to say that's consistent of hate, I'm going to come in with love. I'm going to come in with positivity. I'm going to come in with the very thing you think I'm not. And that to me is what fills me up, because I know that there's people who are like me, or people who've never seen people like me watching. And by that, I get to be this president and show people like, hey, there's people like me. There's Black Muslim women, but we hold so much. We're just like you. We're just like you. And with that, we're so much with love, and that's what we move with. So
that's great. What? How did you like get into like orgs and stuff like that?
Yes. So I've been, oh my gosh, since I was like 8 years old, I've watched reality TV and reality TV game shows with strategy and social.
So like Survivor and Big Brother,
Challenge, Big Brother, all that good stuff. And honestly, like the reason why it holds so close to my heart is because that's how I really learned English. Like for the longest time growing up, I only knew Somali, and going to school, I really struggled with the English language. And this is before middle school. And so I would watch reality TV, and I try to understand, American culture through reality TV. I mean, it probably wasn't the best example, but
I mean, as of like not watching like VH1 Celeb Reality or something like that, right?
I used to watch what was the Real World? Real World.
Real World's not that bad. I mean, like,
bad. Yeah.
It's not that bad.
Yeah, me and my sisters would literally watch just reality TV, and we just be just laughing. And so that's how I really got into I found reality TV. But it wasn't until like high school when I was like, I would love to like participate in this. And I think you have to be like 21 to sign up for any of those shows. And so and to be honest with you, there's never been anybody like me on those shows. So for me, it was like, I don't know if I ever want to actually do it. And so for me, it was like, oh, let me see if there's like smaller things where people can just like play for fun. And so that's how I got into orgs. But the first game I played was like a Survivor game, but it wasn't until recently when COVID hit. And so, I mean, I would peep, but I would never initiate.
We both started around the same time then, like, because I never played an org until March 15th.
Yeah, COVID definitely was, I think, for a lot of people, what got us to really dive into these. Yeah.
Like I've done LRGs before, which I like those. It's a in-person version of an org, normally like a day or two. Like there's some really good popular ones out there, like Survivor Michigan, Survivor New York, Survivor. Yeah, there's a lot of like good ones out there that you meet people and you actually do the challenges.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And then I guess you found Sequester because I'm assuming because of Big Brother and Audrey.
Yeah, so it wasn't. So it was back in November, last year,
Yeah.
and I think Big Brother just recently got finished back in August or September, and I wasn't happy about that. And then I wasn't really a big Survivor person. So I was looking for other smaller anything that had any social strategy games out there that I maybe been missing. And I think I don't know where exactly I saw Sequester. I think it was me on YouTube just searching for different games.
Yeah.
And I found Sequester and I started watching the live versions. And I freaking fell in love with season 3, and then I watched season 2, and season 1 was just, I don't know. I watched season 1, but it was interesting because it was just very different than season 3 or 2.
Yeah.
But that's how I found Sequester, and then I just followed the Facebook community because I think when season 3 came out back in November last year, and that's when it started out. And so I wanted to stay connected when the new episodes came out, and so that's how I found Sequester. And once COVID hit, and I started to see these minis, I was so, and this is right, I think March was when it really started.
Yeah, they started like March 21st, I think. Yeah. I know Beth told me she was on that, like all about that, like the beginnings. So you were like watching from March, and then you didn't apply until April, or so your first game was April 24th, right?
Mm-hmm. It wasn't until I saw Josh Williams, and I was like, ooh, okay, there's people like me also playing these games, so let me try. And so that's when I took the chance back in April, which was my first game. And then the community just found me, and I was just like, wow, this community is even more beautiful than I thought it was. Because I was just a peeper. I was just peeping things. I would never like comment or like anything, and I'd just be like witnessing. And I'm so glad I took the leap to do my first mini, because this community, this Sequester community, is just so beautiful, full with just so many beautiful hearts. And
like I remember when I was told Dan Alt that I was having on the show, he's like, "Oh, I love Muna, but also me and Muna fought like our whole first game," and I'm like, "Oh no, I hate that because I love Dan and I love you," and I'm like, "Oh no, you guys are both like the sweetest people ever." But yeah, you guys are totally different type of players or similar players at the same time. But
believe it or not, Mark, but he's like I think he's the first person to come at me left. So
what makes me sad is I can't see that because it's not been uploaded anywhere. That game.
That game is, I played a lot of games since, but that game is still my favorite game. And the reason why it's my favorite game is because, I think you can agree to this, Mark, is that after your first game, people see you differently, and how like your reputation and how people see you in your past games kind of, and how, if they know you or not, kind of affects your post games after your first game. But your first game is always just like your first game. Nobody knows you, and you get to set up whatever kind of game you want to play, whether that be up front or back. And so I just love the fact that I got to play just absolutely crazy and chaotic. And
my first game lasted 3 rounds, so that's not much, but people knew me because I was recognizable. Mm-hmm. And then like my second game, I got to the final 4, but then like, and then like stayed somewhere like normally like in pre-jury, except for Apples and Honey and then the Mole, which I came in 3rd and won somehow. So which I'm very thankful for all the experiences. But yeah, you are right though. Like you can kind of craft the narrative of your first game if you're given the opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And I played so bold, and I don't think, other than, I've definitely continued to play bold, but I haven't played as bold as my first one because I have to be strategic in how it is, if I was to play again, or like how people perceive me.
Yeah.
Just the strategy of it just has to be different. But that first game it was the funnest game I played. And also it had a lot of sharks in it. It had Dan Alt, it had Michael in it had, Morgan, who was like my enemy in there. It was a fun game. And I wish it was saved because I think you'd enjoy it. It was really intense.
I would really because like as a person that's like close friends with you and Dan, I would really love to see it. And also like just because like that was Dan Clark's win, right?
No, that was AJ.
Yeah, and I would love to see AJ's win too because.
Yeah. And I think I haven't seen Dan play the way he's played in my first game as well too. In his first game,
speaking of the Dan we were talking about,
but I definitely agree. And your first game is different than the rest of the games.
I mean, I'll never forget because during Heroes vs. Villains, like when I started understanding like the sequester Twitter community,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember like I got really giddy when I saw your tweet that you won. And then I saw there were like 200 likes. I'm like, oh my God, this is the most beautiful support community in the world. Because, like, I mean, your win is, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful wins I've ever seen in my entire life, considering you were cast as a hero and you play your game as a hero, except for in the beginning, you voted out someone to get an LOS from them that you didn't really need until towards the end of the game, and that saved you.
Mm-hmm.
I think, honestly, though, oddly enough, my favorite moment of watching you play was in the last All-Stars game when, like, I forget the exact what caused it, but you had such fire in your eyes that is like, Muna's gonna murder someone. She's gonna reach through that camera and kill someone. Because oh my God, they crossed you or you crossed them or something weird happened. I know like your name came out and then you just were like, you're dead to me. And I was like,
when someone says my name, I like my saying is strategic, but also was very real about if you come at me left, I'm gonna come at you right. And it's just like for me, I play when people saying my name, I play such a fun, I'm happy, I'm like excited. But when someone says my name, I'm a boom, complete 180, let's go. And so
and I remember your makeup and like everything about you was just like so kind of regal that night, and you just got so angry. Like I remember like your lipstick was like kind of like a pale color. I remember like you just were like
I forgot who did me wrong. But I do remember that.
I think it was my friend Allie, but I'm not sure. No, Allie went out before you. Like, yeah. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't matter.
But it was a fun game. It was a fun game to show. One thing about Sequester is you can play just any type of perspective, any type of angle, any type of social game, and it's just so much fun. It's just so much fun to show up in different ways and see how people react to that.
Yeah, I want to ask some questions because, like, I had 3 questions asked that I think are really awesome questions.
Yeah.
So, our friend Chrissy McNamara asks, "What made you want to become a poet? And would you ever consider talking to a group of students about the benefits of being a poet?" Of being a writer. I mean, she's a teacher, so I imagine that the second part's definitely more from her. I know you kind of answered part 1, but
yeah. So part 2, yes, I love talking to students and just young adults about writing and about poetry. And for me, so right now I'm currently doing a lot of workshops with a lot of organizations in Minneapolis, as well as like other states and countries. But I also do just like come into, well, now everything's on Zoom, but like just come into Zoom calls with classes and just talk about writing. I love connecting with students, especially students of color who don't see themselves represented in things such as like writers. It wasn't until college where I really started to see and read writers of color, authors of colors, and be like, wow, like you are not only writing this absolute genius work, but you are writing from a place of self that I can connect to and relate to. And just seeing other people who are doing the thing honestly affects young adults, young students, in regards to where they see themselves.
Yeah.
And as writers, as whatever career they see. So I always love to come out and just talk to students. So yes, Chrissy, yes. If you want to hit me on Twitter, let's do the thing. Let's do the thing.
I mean, I'm 90% sure at least one of you follows the other. Just because you guys are both amazing, strong, badass women in this community.
Yes.
I've got this. Okay, so the next question actually threw me for a loop because it was just the most random like words I've ever seen about for you. But what's your favorite episode of Malcolm in the Middle? So for those that don't know, because I asked Robbie, I'm like, this is the most random question I've ever seen. And he's like, well, during one of Tommy's speedrunning events that you brought up, like you were talking, you made a quote that was like directly from Malcolm in the Middle.
Mm-hmm.
And like he wanted to see more of the comedic fun side of you that we see glimpses of with this answer.
Yes. Okay, so I grew up watching Malcolm in the Middle, and I literally from when I was a little, I think I was like 8 years old. I don't know, but I like literally grew up watching Malcolm in the Middle. And so it's funny, I can't tell you specific episode titles, but I can tell you specific moments. Like I remember I remember the dad like doing the speed walking thing, which is how I think Robbie is going.
Yes, that's what it's talking about. Yeah.
I also remember like when one of the kids did the whole like snake thing, and he just didn't shower for a long time, and he just like got his
Oh, yeah, the snake arm thingy, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I was just like, what is going on? And I remember like the chess episode. I love Malcolm more so because I'm also a middle child, so I definitely connected to him and just the way, it's just crazy life that he had growing up. So I love Malcolm in the Middle, and it's funny because I saw an interview of him talking about how he doesn't remember really filming Malcolm in the Middle, and I was just like, what is going on? That is literally
He had a car accident, right?
Huh?
I think Frankie Muniz was in a car accident.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And he just doesn't remember that big part of his life.
Yeah, I mean, which is really, really sad.
Yeah. And so, but I'm a big fan of his. Like it was a great show.
Like, I remember, like, I loved the show, and also, like, I'm gonna bring up something that I don't know if a lot of people like, but I personally loved a lot. But Big Fat Liar.
Oh, that was a good one. And
that was a really funny movie.
That guy is a phenomenal actor. Not Frankie, but
Paul Giamatti.
Yes, I see him in a lot of movies, and he's just a phenomenal.
Yeah,
he's underrated, but he's just a phenomenal actor.
Like what other comedy things do you like? I'm really curious now.
I'm just a big fan of just movies. Like I love TV shows and movies. I love stand-up comedy as well. I'm a big fan of just.
Who's your big stand-up comedian? Like who are you big fans of right now?
Woo! I was the biggest fan of Kevin Hart, but now I don't know anymore. But yeah. I forgot her name. Why did I forget her name? But she was on Girls Trip.
There's like 5 people that could be.
Which I think she's the only one who's like a stand-up comedian.
Oh, wait, oh my god, I'm forgetting her name all of a sudden too.
Tiffany Haddish.
Yeah, Haddish. Yeah,
she's phenomenal. What else? But I'm a big fan of just like Comedy Central and just watching just stand-up comedy. What about you, Mark? Who do you love? I know you love.
Because I'm a big comedy nerd. Like, because I used to study at UCB for like 7 years. So like a lot of those people that came out of like East Coast New York comedy, like I either like know or seen. Like I remember when Donald Glover was just becoming famous with Community, I saw Derek. Did you ever see that movie Mystery Club or Mystery Team?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, like so the people that created that movie were the improv team Derek, and like it was really cool because like right when Mystery Team came out, it was like awesome seeing that. Who else have I been really? I mean, I love Mike Birbiglia. You know who he is, or
not?
So he's a really, really funny storyteller. And like he's done like 6 or 7 specials. He's like early 40s, but like he was that guy that like he would have like 5 Comedy Central specials and stuff. But like he did Sleepwalk with Me, my girlfriend's boyfriend. Thank God for Jokes. Like his most recent one was the new one, which is really great. But he's like a very, very funny, very sweet, like gets to your heart storyteller. Who's not afraid to mince words and like not be afraid to be like, I'm an awkward white guy that lives in Brooklyn. I've really been loving who else have I been loving? I've been loving Laura Lapkus a lot. She doesn't do much stand-up anymore, but like like a lot of those like interesting alt comedians. So
yes, and I'm a big fan of this comedy in itself because I think one thing a lot of people don't realize is in activism work and a lot of work where social justice and etc. We need joy is just as much as radical, and comedy is just as much as radical as serious stuff and serious statements because we need joy in order to remember our most human parts and to remember why we're living, what we're living for. And so I think comedy is one of the most radical thing that there is. And so I'm just a big fan of comedy. I'm always up for comedy. And, I feel like one day I might even get up on a stage and just do a little snippet.
I mean, have you ever acted before? I imagine you would be a good actress.
I have. But I haven't done it as I haven't taken it very seriously. I did it whatever opportunities come my way and whenever, people request my service. But I just love movies. I love actors. I love storytelling. Storytelling is a big part of who I am, and I'm always in awe of storytellers. And
I'll send you some Mike Birbiglia clips. I think you would enjoy him.
Yeah.
And this is a very current question.
Mm-hmm.
The last one that I got today. So Tara Anderson wants to know about your iced coffee order and the snowstorm that you braved to get it today.
Okay, so listen, I'm a big fan of just like um what was it? Because I love all kinds of iced coffee.
Yeah.
I like to get a little. I've always been a little a little spicy with my iced coffee orders because I love to get a little different every couple of days whenever I get my iced coffee. But this time I went to Starbucks and I'm okay. I'm that person who just doesn't choose an order until I see the menu right when I pull up. I don't know if a lot of people hate those kind of people, but I'm the kind
My
of
girlfriend talks about people like you all the time. She's a barista at Starbucks, as you know, in Minneapolis.
yeah. Because I'm just like, am I really feeling this? Maybe I'm feeling this. But I really enjoy the process of ordering my iced coffee. But today I got just like a basic, like a hazelnut iced coffee. So
nothing wrong with that. I mean, when I go to Dunkin' Donuts, I always get like French vanilla, just because it's nice and easy. But like when I go to Starbucks, I've been doing recently the white chocolate mocha, but like iced.
Ooh, no, those are good. Those are good.
Yeah, awesome. Also, like I really hope I get a chance to meet you because I'm trying very hard to get to Minneapolis next week.
Yes, Mark. Yes.
I know that we had this conversation where you basically told me that you're like less than 5 minutes away from where my girlfriend lives, which is pretty cool. And like honestly, you'd be like number one on my list if I get a chance to meet someone on this trip while social distancing and stuff.
Mark. Let's connect. Yeah. Love to meet you in person.
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up?
Is there any last questions you have? I'm a
open. That was all the questions we had. Also, Tevin Brown says Queen Muna.
Hey.
Yeah.
This was so fun. I enjoyed talking to you, Mark. I'm really glad and honored for the invitation to be here, and it was really fun talking to you.
You literally are one of the people I have the most respect for out there. Like not just the question, but as people, because what you stand for, what you fight for, what you do. I mean, people need to follow you on Twitter. That's what I'd say about that. Also, I know you brought it up, but people should look at your stuff on Budding YouTube videos because, I posted the link in the chat for pronounce this correctly, and I will also I can't co-sign that enough because it's beautiful. And the one they posted less than a week ago with the dance happening behind you was, oh my god.
Oh yes, yeah. Oh. That one means a lot to me, and it was phenomenal. That's how we were able to collaborate because talking about mental health is very important to me, and it was important to this dance company back in California, and they connected with me and wanted to collaborate on this piece. And I sent them that specific poem, and it touched them, and just the way my piece and their dance connected so amazingly, and just the message that it sent. I'm so proud of that, Mark. I'm so excited for when I send this out full video. And yeah, it's phenomenal work. It's phenomenal piece, and
I can't wait to see it. I'm such a fan of who you are. Holy,
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark. That means a lot to me, especially coming from you. So, thank you.
I'm nobody special. I'm just another nerdy actor in Brooklyn. But I mean, I think you're incredible, and I really meant it from the bottom of my heart. Also, was curious, would you want to be my Brant Steele this week? I always like to ask my guests on my Wednesday episodes.
Yes.
Yeah. Nice. And if people want, they can tweet at me at MarkLevy85.
Tweet at him, y'all. Tweet at him.
Or follow me. And also letting you guys know we're taking a small hiatus on Monday, unless COVID goes really, 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 really bad in the next few days, which I hope it doesn't, because I'm driving towards Muna, very near Muna, and maybe meeting Muna, then coming back, and then we'll be returning back to episodes first Friday in November. But Muna, thank you so much for doing this. So sorry about the weird miscommunication. I got a lot of time zone differences and weird shit, but that's how it is.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Mark. And I hope this interview was everything you wanted. It means a lot when people ask and want to know more of my story. And so I just want to say I appreciate you, and I value your friendship, and I hope y'all who are tuning in continue to watch Mark Talk, because the way Mark is speaking is something y'all want to listen to. So thank you one again. Thank you again. And so, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I can top that. So thanks for coming, and I'll see you guys next time.